What's up, guys? Matt here, coming at you with a quick look at my Fury Wagon. And yes, this is the Fury Wagon. I have did a little bit of work on this one. A few very simple mods, really not much money into this, just some, personal touches here and there. I had this body that I did a long time ago. We'll talk about all that in a minute. First off, I just want to say thanks to FairRC for sending over some more awesome stuff. They've got these great work mats. They sent me this big mat that's underneath here that I use all of the time on the bench. Stuff like this one right here, I'm going to use this when I go out of town. I'm going to take that with me. It's a nice little work spot. I've got a small one here that I normally take to work with me. Believe it or not, this fits great on the console of the truck in the center, and it's magnetic, so I don't lose any screws or anything like that. They have a little bit of everything, and since I started using these mats, that's all I use anymore. But they have a lot of other things. I use their thread locker here. They've got the Cal Formal waterproof for your electronics. Of course, the udder butter. I just got this big tube because I've been using the little ones and I ran out. I put it in everything now. They've got, a little bit of everything. Just these single container units here that you can put screws, whatever in. So just wanted to give a shout out to them for sending a few more of these mats. I absolutely love them. So if you want to check them out, go check them out. I'm not here to sell you stuff, but it is some really nice stuff, and my job is to let you know what all's out there. And something like that is kind of hard to make a full video about, but I can mention it, let you guys know what's up with it. Now let's get to the mods of this thing. So if you guys watch the channel much, you probably recognize this body. It's one I did a long time ago for another FCX build that I had, and I just wanted to see if it would fit this. I knew that the Power Wagon half cabs kind of fit this pretty well, and this is an FX24 body. I just took it, chopped it up, did a little bit of work to it, and it fit perfect on here, as you can see. Now, my bumper is a little far out. I do have a different bumper coming. I'm going to try to make another one of these work on it, so we'll have to get to that later. That's why I really haven't addressed that, or I will put some sort of grill in here, just kind of fill in that gap. But for now, I'm just going to leave that as is. And then I just did a few little scale accessories in the back here, gave it a little bit more of a scale touch, and I really like the fact that this is now fitting on here. Just perfect. This body is not terrible, but it's definitely not my favorite. I did clear the windows on it, and that helped it, but I think I'm really going to enjoy this now. So let's take a look at what's underneath the body and what sort of mods I've made to this thing and all. So I did put some Velcro here, just because this kind of fits down over the rails pretty well. It's tight in here. That little bit of Velcro kind of holds it in place. Now, I'm not going to be able to get crazy wild with this because it will probably come off, but the Velcro usually holds pretty well. I may end up doing something with the rear to kind of help hold it, and I'm honestly debating on making some sliders for sure. I would like to kind of clean this up to where we don't have any of these jagged edges. So once I make some sliders, I can probably work with mounting it a little different and definitely do something cleaner with my electronics. So really it all started with me moving the electronics from here down to here. I took the battery tray that comes on the truck out and made my own little plate that goes down here. Just cut a piece, drilled a couple holes, screwed it in where the battery tray was mounted, moved my ESC and receiver down here. And then I was running my battery back here with the stock body, but when I went to go putting the scale stuff on here, I had to figure out another way to run the battery. I'll probably do some sliders and then try to mount it there somehow. This is a little larger than what I normally run. These seem to be some pretty good packs. These are the Galaxy, and this is a 3S 250 mom. But I planned on just kind of running this one across here, and then I used an FMS FX18 battery strap here. I'm gonna have to put a washer on this. I think it's gonna come off on me, but I just ran the screw through there, and then I loop it over to this screw. So once the battery's in here, we just kind of stretch it over and hook it. I go under the ESC and it seems to be holding. But anyways, I made this tray to hold my Velcro. I did have to, well, I didn't have to, but I decided to cut the chassis off right here because this arched up quite a bit and I couldn't get my body down where I wanted it to be. I didn't want to cut out the body, so I just cut the chassis. I just didn't like the idea of those sticking out of the body. I wanted it to look more clean, so I cut the chassis off flat there. I'm never going to use these shock options up here anyways. I like my shocks kicked back, so I didn't mind just cutting that off. You can see it's not super clean, but it's hid anyways. I do have rubber bands running from basically the screw that goes through the upper links here, and then I just brought them up and wrapped them around the screws on the shocks. You can see it keeps the front end pulled down, but it will flex if it needs to. But when you're going uphill, it's going to keep that front end pulled in tight. So that usually helps us going uphill. The rear, I don't have a ton of travel, so I just kind of left it. I did go through all of these shocks and add some 10 weight oil because they seem to be getting like very soft, like they weren't really doing anything. So after a little runtime, you probably will have to add some oil to your shocks. Besides that, really the only things I've done is added brass inner and outer portal covers just to get a little more weight in there. And then a lot of times on the FCX and even these CR18Ps, these will strip out right here. This screw will. If you put a stronger servo in there and you're really ripping on that, the plastic will strip. So I always replace that anyways. So I just went with brass. I haven't did anything with the links or anything yet. They're strong enough and they're whatever, so they work. I did, you can see, kind of cut the ears on the servo. It was hitting the chassis sometimes before when I first made these mods. Now when I made this tray, I made it just a little bit wider and it kind of spreads the chassis. You can probably see it's spread out a little bit, but it actually kind of helped with that, so I don't hit that much anymore. You can see right there you will hit it. I may have to trim like the mount itself back here, but it doesn't happen very often when I'm running, honestly. So just laid the shocks down and I'm pretty satisfied with how it's running. You know, I'm running these Trill wheels. They are flipped, like I'm missing a screw out of that one. They're just flipped to be wider. And then right now I've got these Swamp Kings on here because I've been running some kind of loose stuff around the creek and stuff, like hill climbs and that sort of thing is going to be going on. So I'm going to leave these on here for now. But that's basically it. This thing runs very good as is. I've heard of some people killing this new Venom motor with 3S, and you know, people were asking me if it's been an issue or if I've ran 3S, and that's pretty much all I run in this thing. So I don't know what's up with that. Only thing I can say is make sure the settings on your ESC are set for the Venom. For some reason here lately, my ESCs with the newest firmware would just like switch to a different motor. Like the Micro Komodo, it seems like it always went to the Komodo. And then my Cedar and this motor, they would just be blazing hot just sitting here. So if that's not set on Venom, or whatever motor you're running, make sure and check that every now and then, because for some reason mine with the last, I don't know if it's the latest, but one of the, whatever firmware I run, I don't want to update them once I get them, hardly ever. If I get it and it's running good, I don't mess with it. But I was having issues with it just switching that all of a sudden for no reason. I would turn this off, change the battery, turn it on, and it would switch. And then my motor would be getting hot. So definitely keep an eye on that. But besides that, that's about all I've done to this thing. Really, I mean, maybe I'll do some high clearance links at some point. Not too worried about it. They tuck up in there pretty well. So we may do that at some point, but really just kind of running it, having fun with it. So that's all I've got going on right now. I'm gonna hook this thing up. We'll go run it so you guys can see it in action a little more. And let me know what you think about it. You know, I've had a lot of people asking about the mods, and honestly, I just haven't really did that much. So I started kind of working on the body and the scale stuff, getting it all in here. I kind of made a tray back here as well, just so this is Velcroed on. This stuff is all Velcroed on, but I wanted it to stay on halfway decent. And then I kind of just made this piece to look like a bumper because you could see the Velcro, honestly. And then I wanted something to put my license plate on. But I think it all turned out pretty well. So just a little bit of creativity and a couple simple mods, and this thing is beast. All right, I wanted to take a quick look at how this is balanced out now, just to kind of show you, because I knew somebody would want to know after the mods. With most of the, well, all of the running in the video here, I was setting at 5644, and I came back in and I did go ahead and add some of these brass hex to the front just to get me closer to the 6040. I thought it was running really well. I was kind of thinking a little more weight wouldn't hurt it, but it was performing pretty good. And then I just happened to have these kind of laying around. I'll link these in the description because they are really some of the only ones that seem to work well with these axles and this setup. But I did add those to the front, which got us at the 5842 mark. So it's balanced out pretty well. I may still add these to the rear just because I feel like some of the weight is kind of negative weight here. You know, we've got this stuff up here, which it doesn't weigh a lot, but every little bit counts. So I may go ahead and drop these into the rear eventually, but you'll see in the running clips, it did do the downhill stuff pretty well the way it was. I don't think adding those couple weights in the front's really going to hurt that too bad, but adding a little bit in the back may just keep that planted a little more. But you know, when we add too much weight to the rear, then that's weight we got to drag uphill. So I may kind of run it like it is, and then that's always an option to throw these on. But these are definitely some good little hex weights to add that little bit of extra weight if you need it. So I will link all of the portal covers and everything that I used in the description, and that way you guys know where to get it nice and easy. This gas can, I did want to talk about, like this scale accessory pack I bought. It did bolt up straight into the chassis. What I did was used an M2 screw here, and it was a little bit larger than the hole into the chassis, or a little bit smaller, I'm sorry, than the hole in the chassis. So I just put a nut on the backside, and it worked perfect. And then your gas can just kind of fits in there. It hasn't fell out on me yet. If it does, I may end up just kind of tacking it in with a little bit of glue or something, but it just all worked out pretty well, I thought, the way this body fit. Happened to have a screw hole right there where I needed it, and that mounted up pretty good. So I'm happy with how it looks. Now let's just go see how she runs.
So one thing you may notice is this thing is way less noisy with this body. It just doesn't echo through this body as bad as it did the Lexan. It's still kind of loud because it has the metal gears throughout, and anytime you have metal gears in the transmission, it's just louder. But overall, it's much more quiet than it was stock. Here you'll see going down this hill, this is where the brushless super slow crawl really helps. Sometimes with the brush motors, you get a little bit of jump between, like when you're really trying to go slow, and you just get that little inch of a movement all of a sudden, and it will cause you to kind of loop out. I mean, I am tiptoeing on the edge of flipping this right here, but because the throttle is so smooth with the brushless setup, really the only thing I notice is the slop in the gears. Sometimes going downhill is where you really kind of notice that the most, in my opinion. It will kind of mess with you a little bit every now and then, but you can see there, because I have such control with the brushless setup, I'm able to slowly walk down that, which is a really good descent. I mean, a lot of trucks struggle with that. And the rest of the course, I mean, this thing pretty well handled everything well. The front bumper, like I said, I'm going to change that out. I am getting just a little bit of rubbing on it because I did move that bumper back as well. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but it has two mounting options. I slid it back and I mounted it as far back as possible, which helped my approach angle quite a bit. It just, with these larger tires, they hit a little bit. That's the only place I'm getting any rubbing. So I'm really pretty pleased with how well these tires ran on the course here. Sometimes the Meteor tires don't do great out here, but these did pretty dang good, and they're very good in the loose stuff. I've always liked these tires. I do have the Flub RC inserts in these, whichever ones they recommend for them, but overall, really like these Swamp Kings on here. And I'm running these Trill wheels. These are just a set of Trill wheels that I flipped the hex on. I'll put a picture of the wheel itself up here, but then I flipped the hex to give it kind of a deep dish fit, and it made it fit these portals better. So you can see, look at this thing. I mean, it's balanced pretty well, even with, you know, having a few extra little pieces of weight added on up top. Still able to slow crawl down that, and that's pretty impressive. A lot of stuff loops out on that even after adding a ton of weight, and I really don't have much weight added to this thing yet, and it's doing some really cool lines. Overall, I'm pretty thrilled with how this thing's running now, and you know, I've been happy with how it runs really out of the box. A lot of people, you know, have had trouble with 3S, and Furitek's now saying only 2S for this motor. But, I mean, I've ran mine on 3S since I got it. I mean, it's on 3S right here, and I haven't had any issues. You can see that was a pretty good little climb for this thing. And so I've been pleased with the performance of it all along, and now I'm much happier with the looks. You know, once I get my sliders made up, that will get my battery down a little lower and just be all a little cleaner looking, in my opinion, underneath the body. May even allow me a little bit of room to put like a small interior in there or something. But here you can see where I'm getting the rubbing on this body. I could definitely just cut that bumper, but I'm going to try something different. So I'll play around with bumper options, but so far, man, this thing, it's a lot of fun, you know. And I hate that Furitek's now saying this motor is really only rated for 2S, because that's one of the key things with going brushless is being able to run 3S, because just like that climb right there, a 2S pack probably wouldn't get me up that. You really got to have the wheel speed. And so that's why any rig that I'm brushless in, I'm always running 3S. It's just, why not? You know, it's a waste of power running 2S. So I don't know. It's hard to say whether you should run 3S or not. Right there, having that front bumper tucked back a little bit saved me on coming down that as well. A lot of trucks want to hang the front bumper bad on that, and I'm able to clear it. So this has a really good departure angle and, you know, approach angle. Right there's another spot. A lot of times the bumpers will really hang up on stuff, and this just walks through there. So very, very happy with how this one's looking and performing now. I know for a fact Furitek is working on getting us some different body options for these hard bodies as well, so that'll be cool. I hope they get us some overdrive gears. A crawl like this right here, I'm able to get this, but with a little bit of overdrive in the front, that's the type of line that just becomes a lot easier. And even tougher lines than that, a little steeper, the overdrive, even right here, probably would have helped me. That front would have hooked a little bit more, pulled tight, and I would have been able to just go straight up that. Not getting a ton of drop out of that driver side there, so the bands may be a little bit tight, but you know, I'm able to get around it. Not many trucks will go straight up and over that. Really, they always end up going the line I just went, and then I was going up that, it was kind of too easy, so I thought, well, we'll just cross over and see how it goes down this. And it actually went down this very, very well. So I like the balance on this truck. You know, it's doing uphill pretty well, and it's able to go downhill, even though I've added some of the accessories up top, which is a little more weight. You know, it's something normally I don't do a whole lot, but I really like the balance on this rig right now. It's got the looks and some really good performance as well. Now maybe that this one is a little more scale looking, we can compare it to some of the other releases that have came out lately. So I may try to get on top of that, but you guys let me know what you think about this new look for the Fury Wagon, and I appreciate everybody watching. I'll link everything I used in the description. Peace.